The sun hung low over the New York skyline, casting golden hues across the bustling streets. Among the usual hum of the city, there was an unusual calm as Donald and Melania Trump strolled along a quiet, tree-lined street. Donald, in his signature navy overcoat and bright red tie, walked with a purposeful stride. Beside him, Melania, elegant in a cream-colored trench coat, held his arm, her heels clicking softly on the pavement. It was a rare moment for the couple, away from the chaos of their schedules. No cameras, no crowds, just the rhythmic beat of their steps and the distant sounds of a city in motion. For once, the world seemed to pause. But then, a sharp, angry voice cut through the stillness like a siren. "What's wrong with you? Keep that thing away from me!" Donald and Melania stopped abruptly, their eyes darting toward the source of the commotion. Ahead of them, a middle-aged woman in a simple coat stood frozen on the sidewalk, gripping the leash of a small terrier that was barking frantically. Towering over her was a burly man in a leather jacket, his face twisted in irritation. A motorcycle stood parked on the curb nearby, its engine still warm. The man's voice grew louder, dripping with menace. "Control your mutt, lady, or I will!" Before anyone could process what was happening, the biker raised his boot, aiming a forceful kick at the tiny dog. "Hey!" Donald's voice boomed across the street, stopping the man mid-motion. The air seemed to shift, all eyes turning to the unmistakable figure of Donald Trump. "What do you think you're doing?" Donald demanded, his tone firm and unyielding. The biker froze, his leg still poised in the air, before lowering it reluctantly. His eyes narrowed as he turned toward Donald, his bravado faltering under the former president's piercing gaze. "This mutt's out of control!" the biker snapped, pointing at the terrier, which had retreated behind its owner's legs. The woman clutched the leash tighter, her knuckles white as the dog whimpered softly. Donald took a deliberate step forward, his presence commanding. "It's a dog," he said, his voice calm but firm. "Dogs bark. That doesn't give you the right to attack it." Beside him, Melania stepped forward, her expression serene but resolute. She knelt gracefully, extending a gloved hand toward the trembling terrier. "Shh, little one," she murmured softly. Her soothing voice seemed to calm the dog, which cautiously inched forward, its tail wagging hesitantly. The woman looked up at Melania, her eyes brimming with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't know what to do." Donald's gaze remained locked on the biker. "You don't scare people or animals just because you can," he said, his tone carrying the weight of authority. "If you have a problem, you handle it with respect, not violence." The biker hesitated, his bravado crumbling. "Whatever," he muttered, stepping back toward his motorcycle. "Not worth my time." With one last glance over his shoulder, he climbed onto his bike and sped off, the growl of the engine fading into the distance. As the street quieted, the woman sank to her knees, hugging her dog tightly. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, looking up at Donald and Melania. "No thanks needed," Donald replied, adjusting his coat. "You just keep standing up for yourself, and for him." He nodded toward the terrier, who now seemed much calmer under Melania's gentle hand. "You were very brave," Melania added, offering the woman a warm smile. The woman smiled weakly, brushing away a tear. "It's people like you who remind us that kindness still exists." As the Trumps walked away, Melania glanced at Donald, her expression thoughtful. "You know, Donald," she began, "moments like this matter. People need to see that kindness and courage can go hand in hand." Donald nodded. "Sometimes It's not about the big speeches or grand gestures, he said. It's about what you do when no one's watching. That evening, Donald shared the story on his social media platforms, not as a political statement, but as a reflection on the importance of standing up for what's right. Kindness matters, he wrote. Whether it's protecting a person or a pup, every act of courage counts. The post quickly went viral, sparking a wave of responses. People shared their own stories of stepping in during difficult moments, creating a ripple effect of inspiration. The next morning, an unexpected package arrived at Trump Tower. Inside was a handwritten note from the woman they had helped, along with a photo of her terrier, Bella, playing with a new toy. The note read, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Trump, you didn't just stop someone from hurting Bella. You reminded me that there are still people in this world who care enough to stand up for others. Bella hasn't stopped wagging her tail since. You've inspired me to be braver, too. With gratitude, Eleanor and Bella." Melania read the letter aloud, her voice soft and warm. She glanced at Donald, who smiled thoughtfully. "See?" she said. "Even the smallest actions can make the biggest difference." Donald chuckled. "Guess you were right, again." But the story didn't end there. Inspired by the encounter, the Trumps launched a campaign to support local animal shelters and promote responsible pet ownership. They partnered with organizations to fund educational programs about kindness and empathy, particularly for children. Eleanor was invited to speak at one of the events, where she recounted the day Donald and Melania stepped in. "It wasn't just about stopping a cruel act," she said, standing before a packed audience. "It was about showing that courage and kindness can come from anyone, anywhere." Donald and Melania sat in the front row, listening intently as the audience erupted into applause. Months later, Donald received another letter, this time from a young boy named Alex. "Dear Mr. Trump, I saw your story about helping that dog. It made me think about how I can be brave too. Yesterday, I stood up for my friend when some kids were being mean to him. It was scary, but I thought of you and Mrs. Trump. Thank you for showing me what it means to do the right thing. Sincerely, Alex." Donald handed the letter to Melania, a small smile playing on his lips. "It's not every day you get to change a life," he said. Melania nodded. "Sometimes, all it takes is one small action." Donald leaned back in his chair, gazing out at the city below. "One small action," he repeated, "but a whole lot of heart." This story is a powerful reminder that even the smallest acts of kindness can create ripples that change lives. If this inspired you, don't forget to like the video, share it, and subscribe to Story Dash for more heartwarming tales. Have you ever stood up for someone or something that couldn't defend themselves? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching, and remember, even the smallest actions can make the biggest difference.